Well, hello and welcome to another summer edition of the Typical Boro podcast. I'm your host, Steve Dixon, and as usual, I'm joined by my usual team of Mr. Graham Bandera and Mr. John Cutler. Okay, boys?
All good. Yep.
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Very happy. We've got a manager now, that's why we're here. We're going to discuss what's been happening. At last, Middlesbrough have announced, I don't think it comes as any shock, that Rob Edwards is going to be the new Middlesbrough first team coach slash manager. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss how it's going to affect Middlesbrough moving forward in the future and next season. And we'll get some questions from the fans that have kindly messaged me. So we'll get them answered by you boys. But I'll start off with you, Mr. Cutler, because you're missing from the Michael Carrick podcast that we're doing a few weeks back. Just a few words on Michael Carrick leaving the football club, and more importantly, just your initial thoughts on Rob Edwards being named as Middlesbrough's new manager.
I think it's always sad to see. Well, it's not always sad to see a manager go, but I actually wanted him to succeed. I think it was the right decision to let him go. I think the interesting thing is that I've picked up from nitbits of the local press is it looks like they were going to keep him, but wanted him to get rid of his backroom staff, and he's sort of backheeled that. So that decision had to be made then. We've mentioned plenty of times about backroom staff and what have you. Like I say, I'm a bit sad he's gone, but I think it's the right decision. And now we move on to. It's always exciting getting a new manager, see what we're going to get, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the podcast.
Yeah. Bandy, thoughts? And I know Mr. Rob Edwards wasn't your initial first choice of the names that were getting bandied about. However, your thoughts now that you've seen him named as Middlesbrough manager, you've heard him speaking to the press. A positive move by the club?
I think it is on the whole. Yeah. Like you say, he wasn't my first choice, but I wasn't averse to him coming in anyway. I did want Steve Cooper. Went on record several times and mentioned him as a possible replacement for Carrick's inevitable departure. But now he's here. Now he's done his media rounds. I was quite impressed. I thought he was really polished, slick, smooth, said all the right things, ticked all the right boxes. It's easy to say that because a lot of managers do the same thing. You know, they do put on a bit of a charm offensive first day, get to know everybody, set a good impression. But he was good. I've got to say, he impressed me. He mentioned certain things like steel, engaging with supporters, key elements for me. It's obvious that Carrick lost quite a lot of the support, and Rob Edwards, one of his first missions is to get everybody on side, because I don't believe everybody wanted him. A lot of people are saying it was the cheap option, but I believe we've actively pursued him for quite a while. He was probably in the running when Carrick was first appointed anyway. So he's always been in the thoughts, particularly with Kieran Scott, who's obviously worked with him before at Wolves as a youth coach. So he's always been fresh in the mind. So yeah, good luck to him. So I was quite impressed. Like I say, he mentioned steel, intensity, and I was quite impressed with the fact that he made a quite a stern point really, and said that he wants to play away from our own goal, which he's probably took a couple of weeks to look at the goals we've conceded and thought, I'm not having that. So he did say some of the things that I would wanted him to have said. He mentioned about lots of shots, lots of crosses. So yeah, very, very what's the word? Polished. I'll use polished again because that's how he came across. So yeah, but obviously he's got to work with the recruitment team now and get players on board that suits the style that he wants to play. He's not given too much away yet in terms of the style, but I'm pretty certain that he's going to go with 3 centre-backs and wing-backs, but that would involve a serious recruitment to try and get decent players in to play that way.
Yeah, we'll get into some tactics a bit later on and how we're going to play and some of the things that Rob said in his interview, which were quite interesting. Cuts just a couple of quotes from his press conference. He said, "I'm really excited about an amazing football club. Steve Gibson is a huge factor in me coming. He typically gives people time and support. There's lots of talent here, but some areas we want to try and improve. It's all well and good saying we should be competing in the Premier League, but it's about delivering. That process could take time, but I want people to dream and believe. We want to make our fans proud. He also said it's a real privilege to be given the opportunity to be head coach of this great football club. It's something that's not lost on me, how big this is, how important this is, and what it means to the people. It felt instantly like this was right for me, and it got me excited. I can't wait to get started. That's what you want to hear from your new manager, John, isn't it?
Yeah, I think these press conference stuff, you can take them with a pinch of salt, because like Graham said, it's sort of like written off a script. It made me laugh, the release of the announcement where they said, oh, there was a extensive search, there was loads of real top quality candidates, but so-and-so's the standout. Well, they say that every single time, but like I said, I'll get behind him. I was happy with when he said about intensity. I've mentioned on the podcast before, going back to the days at Ayson Park, I was brought up on blood and thunder, players getting stuck in, and that's what I want to see. We distinctly have lacked that for a long time. I want to see players getting in, winning the ball, and trying. He said about attacking, trying to attack and win games. And like I say, I'm good, very well prepared to give him a chance. I don't mind the appointment at all. One thing I think is a plus point is he's apparently good mates with Kieran Scott, so they're going to be singing off the same hymn sheet. And I think that's important, because not all managers we've had in the last 5 or 6 years, or since Kieran's been at the football club, and the model that we're trying to implement here, have been on the same hymn sheet. So I think that's a good start. Although he was appointed yesterday, he's probably had a good look at this club for a month since the end of the season, knows what we've got, knows what we need, and probably had talks with Kieran about that as well.
Just pull you up on one of the things you said there, John, about, makes you laugh about an extensive search. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe Middlesbrough Football Club haven't done an extensive search? Because from all sources in the press, they did interview Steve Cooper, they did interview Danny Roll, they did interview a couple of managers from abroad. Do you honestly believe that didn't happen? It's always just been Rob Edwards? Because, I know it's our club and we'll think about it differently to everybody else, but this is a big football club with really, sort of, important people at the top of the club. Do you really think that they wouldn't have been, ticking every box to try and make sure we've got the best manager possible?
Well, I believe they will have done a big search, but every time we appoint a manager, it's the same stuff, that almost exactly the same thing that comes out, and then they say there was one outstanding candidate. Well, if you've done an extensive search, and we are still a pretty big football club, no disrespect to Rob Edwards, if he is the biggest, best name out there that would have come to this football club, I'm a little bit, maybe I'm being naive. I don't totally believe that, but like I say, I'm 100% going to get behind him. But to say there wasn't possibly better candidates out there, for me, I think it's
Is
load of waffle.
it about the biggest name though, or the most sexy name, or a foreign manager, or is it
Oh,
that Rob Edwards really actually just interviewed very, very well? They've interviewed him before when they give Carrick the job, and he nearly got the job. The Kieran Scott wanted him there. Steve Gibson slightly favoured Michael Carrick, and they brought Carrick in. However, after seeing his press conference, is it not that just, Rob Edwards interviewed very, very well, spoke very passionately about his ambition for Middlesbrough Football Club, and just got the job ahead of some more names that maybe were more sexy to supporters?
It's not just about being sexy to supporters. Like I've mentioned numerous times about Sunderland last year, they brought in an unknown foreign manager, certainly unknown on these shores. And look what he went in and did. And you can look at other clubs that have now got themselves in the Premier League with foreign managers. Not that I'm saying, like, this is nothing against Rob. He obviously will have interviewed very well, otherwise they wouldn't have given him the job. But this is totally my opinion. He's good mates with Kieran Scott, so that has him higher up the ladder than possibly another candidate who might have been better for the job. But like I say, I don't want to get on the wrong foot and criticise him before he's even started, because I'm totally behind him and what we're trying to do.
Bandy, just, interesting point that he apparently the hold up for Rob Edwards being announced was that he was sticking firm and fast that he wanted his own backroom staff in, which Michael Carrick obviously didn't get. Do you think that was a good move by Rob Edwards to make sure that he got some of his own men behind the scenes in? And he's obviously brought in Adi Vivash and Harry Watling to the football club.
I think that's a great move. Even if it did take that 2 weeks, then so be it. You've got to get the right men in, and you've got to trust these people. I think he's made two good signings there for his coaching team, particularly Adi Vivash, who's 55 years old, a wealth of experience. I'd like to see him as a bit of a wise old owl. He's worked at Coventry, he's worked at Chelsea. I've actually listed some of the players here that he's actually developed. So we've got at Chelsea, we've got Mark Gouy, whatever you pronounce him as, Conor Gallagher, Hudson-Odoi, Mason Mount, Reece James. That's just Chelsea when he was at under 18s and under 21 level. And at Coventry, Gyökeres and Heimer. So there's some serious players there. And he had 2 promotions at Coventry. He got them to play. Well, he didn't get them to play. He was part of the setup that got them to a playoff final and also an FA Cup semi-final as well. So probably Coventry's most successful period in the short term, and he's done really well. So I'm glad we brought him in. We said on the pod numerous times last season, we mentioned the possibility of someone like René Moulenstein or Mike Phelan to come in and help Carrick. For whatever reason, that never happened. Whether or not the finances weren't there at the time, I do not know. It's something we'll probably never know. We can always surmise. But I'm just glad we've finally got somebody in who can help a young manager who's trying to play his trade. And obviously Harry Watling, I see him sort of developing some of the younger players, from the academy, possibly trying to get them promoted through into the first team, which I think is a good compliment to the experience of Vivash. So I think that should work well. But it's all dependent on which players we can bring in. You could have the best coaches in the world, but if you're bringing in rubbish, then you can't polish a turd, I'm afraid. So it's down to the recruitment yet again to give these guys all the possible help they can have, because we've got to hit the ground running, I'm afraid. There's no transitional season. I'm sick of hearing it. We transition every season. We've got to hit the ground running. Edwards knows what he wants. He's like I say, he's come in, he's assured, he's polished, he's saying all the right things, he talks the talk, but can he walk the walk? He can only walk the walk if he's given some quality to work with. Because I'm sure he's looked at the squad over the last 2 weeks, a month, which you alluded to, Dicko, which I believe that. And he's looked at that and he's thought, wow, I've got a proper job on my hands here. Because all the things he wants us to do, I don't think we've got the players capable of doing it in terms of intensity, steel, playing away from our own box, getting crosses in, getting shots off. So he's got a hell of a lot of work to do. But, I'll trust him and I'll back him and hope that he can do it and turn us around quite quickly, because we can't be playing catch up again this season. It's just getting silly now. We've got to, for once, start strong and lead the charge and get teams, trying to follow us.
Cuts, just to bring you in on the backroom team, I know you'll be a fan of bringing in some experience behind the scenes and some different ideas, because we've been, seeing for a while now, jobs for the boys, people have been at the club for too long, people who've failed at the club have been there for too long. Good to see some fresh faces, some fresh ideas, Cuts.
Absolutely. I think if you bring in coach, manager, whatever you want to call it, you've got to let him bring in his own staff. Now, I don't know if he's worked with Vivash and Watling before. I don't know that, but he obviously knows good things about them, and the club have allowed him to bring that in, so that's a plus point. I think a lot of Coventry fans said that when Vivash left Coventry, that was the downfall of Mark Robins, and he didn't last much longer after that, after they had a big fallout. So the fact that when they were together was their most successful period, it all points in the right direction for me. So I don't know too much about him or Harry Watling, but I think it's good that the club have allowed Rob to bring in his own men.
I totally agree. So we touched on Rob Edwards and his tactics, and I'm just going to give another quote from Rob Edwards. You've both of you have actually touched on it already, but I thought it was a great quote to come in with so early in his first interview. And he said he wanted his team to be aggressive on the front foot. I want to play with bravery. I want control. I want complete control ideally, but as far away from our goal as possible. Action, that's what I want. I don't know a fan base that wouldn't want to play with passion and emotion, working very hard and winning duels, blocking crosses, sprinting forward, getting crosses and bodies in the box, tackles, action, playing with passion. Of course, you have to take control of the passion and play with a tactical understanding as well. Now, there's a lot of words there that we've used on this podcast over the last 6 months that he's obviously picked up on, that's been missing after watching Middlesbrough's games over the past season. It's good that Rob Edwards, maybe with a little bit of help from Kieran Scott as well, pointing out Middlesbrough's shortcomings last season, what was lacking in the first team squad, and what we need to bring to the football club to strengthen this squad. Because I know we need new players, I know we need new ideas, but let's not forget, he's still coming in, taking over a squad that's still full of talent. You know, we've got 2 players playing on the TV at the moment, you know, in Netherlands against England under 21s with Rav Vandenberg and Hayden Hackney. They're still Middlesbrough football players. We've still got Finn Azaz at this football club. We've still got Tommy Conway at this football club. We've got some good footballers for him to come in and work with his new ideas and his new tactics of intensity. But I was really encouraged by that, because now he's said that, and that's the way he wants to play, and that's the way he wants Middlesbrough to be set up next season. He's got to follow through with those ideas. For me, do you not think, Cuts?
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see, because he said it in his press conference. Now, whether he's got the players at the football club to give us that style of football and what he wants is a different matter. So that could take a couple of transfer windows at least to get in what he wants, so he can implement that style of football. It's interesting, Graham mentioned earlier about his 3 centre-halves. Well, I think when we went through our centre-halves last season, with a lot of them, there's probably only Vandenberg that I would keep, and hopefully if Lenihan can get fully fit, I would make him the captain. But we'd certainly need a couple of centre-halves to come in if he's going to play 3. And you need high-intensity pace full-backs as well, if you're going to get them up the front. Now, if we do that, where are players like Whittaker going to fit in? Is Finn Azaz going to fit into that system if you're playing a 3-5-2? Because for me, Whittaker can't play as a wing-back. Are you going to have 2 behind 1 forward? It'll be interesting to see how he sets up, but for me, have we got the players to play a 3-5-2? I don't think we have.
I was looking at the Middlesbrough squad the day, Cuts, just playing Football Manager with what we've got before we actually buy anybody. And you are looking at sort of Solbrin in goal, you are looking at Vandenberg, Dale Fry, Lenihan possibly, and obviously Neto Borges can play in a 3 because he proved that last season. You've got Bangura coming back as a wing back. Huge problem on the right hand side because it's not really Aylin's game anymore. Midfield, you could patch that up. Hackney, you've got Morris. Can Azaz play behind 2 forwards? What about obviously you've got Tommy Conway? Is he gonna find a place if he plays 2 strikers for Josh Coburn to be reintroduced to the Middlesbrough side? Is an option because he played with a big fella at Luton Town. Is Josh Coburn going to suddenly have a future back at this football club? Is Riley McGree going to get reintroduced to Middlesbrough Football Club as a big player? So we have got players there, but obviously we're still lacking strength and depth massively, and we're still lacking that little bit of stardust and a little bit of leadership that you guys are on about. Match winners, captains, midfield generals. We're still lacking a little bit of a spine. I think that's what we're lacking. But we have still got the nucleus for me of a squad, because let's not joke around. If Michael Carrick had kept his job and he was staying here, we would be on this podcast saying it's got to be top 6 next season with Michael Carrick. So for me, if the manager has changed because they think Rob Edwards is going to do a better job than Michael Carrick, surely the remit for Rob Edwards must be minimum is top 6, or it's failure again, or it's failure again.
That's what I said. Yeah, we can't have a transitional season if that squad is as good as people say, and it's near ready, barring a few obvious omissions. Then it's got to be top 6 push. It has to be with the players we have currently, with others coming in. But yeah, I'm pretty certain he'll go with a 3. But Cuts rightly points out we've got 2 from 3 centre halves who are not fit for purpose, in my opinion. We've got 2 wing backs who are also not fit for purpose. So he's got some serious soul searching to do, and He's got to go shopping because that's the bedrock of that team. We can't start building from the front this season, which is probably what Carrick's downfall was. He built from the front and forgot about the back. We've got to flip it round and start building from the back. We've got to start looking at a proper keeper because Sol Bryn, as good as he is he going to play every game? Is he going to pick up that injury again? We've got no backup now. So I'd start with a keeper. Then I get a couple of centre halves in. There's the case for Johnny Howson. Is he going to be given an extension? Because there's a possibility if we play.
He's mentioned, didn't he? In the press conference, he's going to have talks with him. But I've got a feeling Johnny Howson might leave the football club. Just the vibe I got when he was asked the question. Mentioned that he spoke to Kieran Scott about certain players that he needs to have a chat with, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Johnny Howson to be said, look, thanks for the memories, but we're going in a different direction now. I
think that might be the case as well. I think he would have been given a year if Carrick was still here because he would have found a place for him. However, there was the option of playing Howson as the middle centre back, as a sweeper, just playing in an advanced role with the two centre backs just behind. If he is going to play a three, but I'm not sure his legs will carry him in that area of the pitch now. But I still think if the money's there, he's worth keeping just to be the eyes and the ears of the dressing room. Because Rob Edwards has come into this completely blind. I know Kieran Scott will have spun him a yarn or two about what's been going on, but you still need that go-between between pitch and dressing room. And I think Howson is vital in that role.
I think what's going to be key cuts coming up now is we need to see Steve Gibson show what his ambition is now for this season, because like you have both said, we could have Jose Mourinho coming in as manager with his coaching staff, and they're not going to get the team to where we want to be, which is the Premier League, without money being spent, because like you've said straight away, we'll probably need a goalkeeper, wing back, centre back, another centre forward, a midfield player, but not just any players, quality players, top 6 players, leaders that are going to get you to the Premier League. So, it's a good start by Steve Gibson. He's took his time. They've had the the inquiry at the end of the season. He's chosen his man. He's chosen Kieran Scott's man. So they've got good continuity behind the scenes. But now it's only going to work if Steve Gibson shows the ambition by passing that money down to Kieran Scott to get the right players to the football club.
There's some big decisions to be made, isn't there? We've seen Hackney's been linked with a move away in the summer. There was interest in him from Porto in January. You've got Azaz linked with a move away. Vandenberg's agent seems to be trying to tout him around a little bit. Morgan Rogers, who's not at the football club anymore, is linked with a big move away from Aston Villa. Now, that could bring some extra income in. Now, I'm not against all these players leaving. As long as we put the money back in and say to Rob Edwards and Kieran Scott, there you go, guys. There's the money that we've raised from some bargains and some homegrown players that we've brought in. You go and put your stamp on this football team. In a perfect world, I'd like Hayden to stay and play another season. I'd like to see it under Rob Edwards. And I think with the move Bellingham got to Dortmund from Sunderland at 30-odd million, Hackney's at least as good as he was, in my opinion. I think part of that move's due to his brother going there and doing so well and making a massive profit. So we can't sell ourselves short if we're going to sell these players. But I wouldn't be averse to selling the 3 of them as long as we put the money back into the squad.
They've got the Lat money still, we've got 22, 23 million pounds in January, so we should be in a financially decent position to have a go. Other than the Premiership teams that have come down with the parachute payments, Middlesbrough should be fairly strong financially next season to have a go, like you say. I wouldn't like to see all 3 leave. I think we've got too many gaps to plug anyway.
Yeah.
If one of them has to leave to fund a war chest, shall we say, for Rob Edwards, that would be fine by me. But I don't think we can afford to lose 3 because of the reasons you've give. Just going off the press conference, guys, I thought Middlesbrough have learnt a bit of a lesson because they've been so poor of late, Middlesbrough, with the PR. And I thought the Rob Edwards getting that interview out quickly, saying the right things, was a great PR for the club, because fans were obviously, Rob Edwards wasn't really a lot of the fans' first choice. He wasn't really an exciting appointment. And on the social media for the last couple of weeks, a lot of fans have been moaning about Rob Edwards coming in, as we've all seen. But just tonight there, Middlesbrough have also announced that they're going to have two days on the 1st of July and the 2nd of July. They're going to have meet the staff, engaging with the fans. They're going to put some free tickets out this Friday, the 27th, 12 o'clock. Free tickets for fans to go and meet Rob Edwards and his coaching staff. And then on the 2nd of July, they're going to have the home kit launch, where they're going to launch the home kit with free tickets for fans to come and see the new kit launch. So I thought that was, you know, a change by Middlesbrough Football Club, involving the fans, a little bit of good PR. And I thought, getting back to Rob Edwards with the interview, it was good PR, and it done Rob Edwards the world of good. Now, you used to know, I've put a couple of polls out on X in the last couple of weeks regarding the Middlesbrough manager position. So the first one we put out was a simple one. We just said, and this was on the 10th of June, we just said, some popular options for next Boro manager, who would be your first choice? And it was down to the three, which was Danny Roll, Cooper, Edwards. And there was about 400 people voted, so it's not everybody, but it gives you a decent idea. 70% wanted Danny Roll, 24% wanted Steve Cooper, and only 6% wanted Rob Edwards. So, mischievously, yesterday, I put another poll out, which a couple of people were whinging about, but now they'll know why I done it. So we put another one out saying, following the announcement of Rob Edwards as new Boro manager and listening to his first interview, are you happy with the appointment, or would you have preferred Steve Cooper or Danny Roll? So the results are in, and again we've got just over 400 votes, so a similar poll. 5% wanted Steve Cooper, 19% wanted Danny Roll, and 76% were happy with Rob Edwards. So to me, that shows how well Middlesbrough Football Club and Rob Edwards have done with that press conference and what's been said, and it's almost flipped, you know, the people on our poll upside down with the results. So good first day's work by Rob Edwards, in my opinion, and well done to Middlesbrough Football Club to get the fans on side with Rob. And you'll know what's going to happen shortly. Season tickets are going to come back on sale, so not a bad little move by the club. What do you think of that?
It's like I said, his press conference was excellent. It's a pure charm offensive. It was really, really good. He's got the looks, he's got the panache, he's got the swag, he's got the bravado. He was confident, he was full of smiles, and you know, he's passionate. He came across well. So people are bound to think, yeah, okay, yeah, quite like this guy. But if we win one game out of 15 to start the season, then you can do another poll. You know, you got to do the talking on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Anyone with a bit of style could have gone into that press conference and smiled and said all the right things and ticked all the right boxes. Like I said, he's obviously looked at the team and thought, right, they are crap. They're letting too many goals. So what do I need to do? Right, we're going to be strong. We're going to be built on steel. We're going to play with intensity. He's going to say the exact opposite of what we've been. He's bound to say that. But credit to him, he handled it all well, and he does look the part. So if he looks the part, let's prove it to the fans that he is the part, and I'll back him all day long.
He is a good-looking fella. Let's be honest. You know, he's going to be really popular with the female Middlesbrough supporters. I'd imagine he's a good-looking kid. I was thinking, you know, it wasn't so long ago that we appointed Steve McLaren, and we had supporters or a supporter running along the touchline throwing his season card at Steve McLaren. Could, with the appointment of Rob Edwards, we get the first time supporters are throwing the underwear at the Middlesbrough manager? If he does well in the first 10 games, it could be like a Tom Jones concert.
I think. Dear me, well, it'll be you that's chucking your undies. Dear me.
Nobody wants to see that.
Settle down. Settle down. Do the results on the pitch.
Yeah.
Right, we've got some questions posed to us by supporters on X, so I'll read a few out for you boys to answer. So we'll start with your pal, actually, Cuts, John Willow. So he's saying, everything I hear about Eri Vivash suggests he is the pit bull that every squad needs. Instant upgrade to the coaching staff, an injection of energy should work wonders. important to get the transfer window done early to gain some positive momentum. So, good point by John. We need to get these signings in, main signings in, don't we, early to give them a chance to work with the coaching staff, etc.
Yeah, I think it's something it's like rinse and repeat. We talk about the same things every year. Get the players in. Pre-season training starts Thursday. Try and get some in. Get them into the squad. Get them to know the lads, how we're going to play, what they're capable of, what other players like, how they're going to integrate as a squad and on the pitch, more importantly. But yeah, like Jono said, I think we do need a bit of a pit bull. I think we've been far too nice. And we've complained about that, certainly under the Carrick era. Warnock and Wilder, I would imagine, were managers that would, more old school, that would have had a right go at them in the dressing room. I'm sure Carrick did as well, but you never got that sort of idea in his press conferences. So, yeah, I think you need someone who's going to be in there, sort of good cop, bad cop. Do you know what I mean? Someone who's going to go in there and is going to absolutely blast them and rinse them. I get that it's harder in the modern game because players are on far more than people who are managing them, and it doesn't happen in many professions. So I understand how hard it is. And modern day players spitting the dummies out and not performing, but you need it. And as fans, we want to see it. I don't want them coming out saying, "Oh, we did this, we did that, we were brilliant for 90 minutes." When the fans are walking away and they're all saying the same thing, we're not stupid. We know what we're watching. If we've been rubbish, say we've been rubbish. Be honest. That's what I want. And whether it's the new manager or the assistant coming out and saying it, I'm all for it. I want to hear that.
Well, that was the undoing of Michael Carrick, wasn't it? When things weren't going well at his press conferences, you just wanted him to come out with some honesty, some passion. You don't have to name players, but you can tell the fans what you're not happy about, and things are going to change. And he never done that, Michael Carrick. I think this will be massively different with Rob Edwards. I'm not saying he's going to throw his players under the bus at all, but I think he'll come out in press conferences with passion and tell the truth, and that'll go down better with supporters if we've had a poor performance or a poor result. We've got King Creole 24 saying, with the squad likely to get an overhaul and Edwards coming in, what is a realistic aim for next season? Similarly with Nick M 1976, he's asking a similar thing. He's saying, do we have the players to give Edwards the non-negotiable high intensity style of football he is craving? So they're having the question of the squad. Have they got the talent, and what's realistic for next season? We've sort of discussed it earlier on. What would you think next season cuts? It would be, have we got the squad, and B, what's a realistic aim for next season?
Well, we've got certain parts of the squad that I think are good enough. Certain players in this squad could play in a team that finished top 2. Now, they all can't, obviously. So a realistic aim for me, I'm expecting the club to go out and do the correct transfer business. So my aim is bare minimum playoffs, like Graham said earlier. And as a fan, at the start of the season, if you're not thinking bare minimum playoffs, what's the point? What's the point in coming into a season with no optimism, thinking, "Oh, mid-table"? Are we going to sell?
Oh, lost your sound there, John. Just check your mic. Yeah, just check your mic. I think you've just went off a little bit there. Don't know what you've done there. Bandy, MC of X, he's asking what immediate changes to the playing squad is needed. So we know we'll probably need a good overhaul of maybe 8-9 players, but I'll say it. You name five positions that are paramount before the start of the season.
3 centre backs and 2 wing backs. That's it. Start from the back and then work your way forward. I don't think we're too poor up front. I think we'll score goals. I think we've got a lot of flair and a lot of creativity. It's just that solid base behind. That's what you need. You need a foundation to build on. We never had that last season. We'd score 1 and concede 2, so we'd lose the game. So build from the back. And like I said before, if we can get another keeper in with Premier League experience, then I'm all for that. But if we have to go with Sol Bryn, then so be it. He's capable. But it's imperative, if we're going to play with wing backs, we've got to go and buy 2. And then we've got to build that foundation with a strong defence. Because I don't see him going any other way. I think he will play with a 3 because he'll look at how we've played this season with a 4, and we've just leaked goals like a sieve. And I think his first priority will be to shore that defence up and then build from the back, which gives us a nice platform then. Because I think he'd be quite content with some of the creative players we've got. And with a bit of fine-tuning and a bit of solidity in midfield, I think we could be okay. And I think we might kick on, but we'll only kick on if we stop leaking goals. And it's telling that he keeps saying, I want us to play as far away from our goal as possible, because that's obviously worrying him.
Yeah, that was a great point, Rob.
It was a great quote he said. It pleased me when he said that, because he's obviously done his homework. He's looked at us and thought, wow, these are so bad that he'll go through the lot of them. And I think he will. I don't think he'd be afraid to chase a few as well. So
does that mean we're going to see an end to the dreaded fiddling about at the back?
I think we will, yeah. I think we will. I don't think it'll be long ball. We'll try and play out when it's right. And we'll try and play forward when we can. But I think he'll utilise his full-backs or his wing-backs to maximum capacity and get him to play really wide so we're not in any danger of conceding. I don't think we'll be giving the ball to the keeper to give it to the centre-back or a sweeper. I think it'll go over the top. I think it'd be a bit no-nonsense. And he'll allow the midfield then to play. So there'll be a lot of onus on them to dictate games. So I'm intrigued. You know, I was a Carrick fan. I wanted him to stay, but he's gone. So I'm over that. Let's move on. Let's see if Edwards can implement a different style, which excites, which is what he said he wants to do. So that's good enough for me.
Right, Cuts. Another question. This is from Smithborough Brian. He said, would the lads have taken Rob Edwards when they were saying Carrick had to go? So I'll take it he means sort of like when we're going through that sticky patch after Christmas into January, February, when we're still at a chance of the playoffs. Would you have taken Rob Edwards then if he was available? The problem with that is I don't think Rob Edwards was interested in being in football at that point. He just left Luton Town. You needed a rest, you needed a break from football. So I don't think Rob Edwards would have been an option then anyway. But
Well, I think from my point of view, I always said to give Michael till the end of the season, if we made the playoffs or not. I mean, I used the word particularly in here, and I said failure if we don't make the playoffs, and we had a big podcast about that, and had loads of feedback. Now it's interesting to note that the Gazette have used that word quite often in articles about Michael Carrick, the word failure. Now, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people agreed or disagreed with my words for that. But personally, I wouldn't have changed it at the time in January. I think you set an objective. He was still in with a chance of reaching that objective even till the final game of the season. But at the end of the season, ultimately, we finished 10th. And I'll use the word again, for me, it was failure. I'm quite happy that Edwards has come in now for Michael Carrick. We'll see how it goes. Let's give him a chance.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Barry Stimson, he's put a question in saying,
Barry.
Yeah, Big Baz. He was saying, I was originally against an Edwards appointment, as you know. Now he has the job. He's fairly excited and look forward to the team full of commitment and not being lethargic. We've witnessed recently. What do you think, lads? So Barry's basically saying wasn't really wanting Edwards in. Now he's listened to him. Now he's in. He's quite excited about it. What do we think? I'll speak for myself first. I'm delighted we've got Edwards in. He was my choice out of the 3 that were getting interviewed between Cooper, Danny Roll and Edwards. He was my choice of the 3. So I'm delighted he's come in. I liked him at Luton. I liked the way he spoke. I liked his interviews. I liked his passion that he showed on the pitch with the Luton fans. I hated playing against these teams away at Luton. You know, they were at you, throwing themselves into tackles, battling, getting crosses in the box, shots off. They were a difficult side to play against. You know, he got the maximum out of an average squad. Really got into the Premier League. So I was quite happy with Rob Edwards coming to the club, and I'm like Barry. I'm quite excited about the future and how we can get Middlesbrough playing and getting the supporters ignited again, in the stadium full of passion again. And I think we can have a really good season. The only thing that's keeping us back from getting really excited is I still need to wait to see Steve Gibson's ambition and what footballers walk through the door. Because as good as a manager Rob Edwards is, in my opinion, he's not a wizard. He can't produce, magic tricks. So apart from that, if we start to see some good footballers coming through the door at the Riverside, I'll be really optimistic next season that we can do well and push on. Bandy, I'll come to you.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly. I agree with Barry, and I agree with yourself, Dicko. It's all recruitment dependent, really. I do like his credentials. He's got a promotion with Forest Green. He's got a promotion with Luton, so he does know what it takes to actually get a team up. People will flip that and say, "Oh, well, he took Luton down, and he took Luton down." He had a nightmare in the Championship last season, but there's reasons for managers falling out of form, but there's also reasons for managers achieving. So you've got to find that balance. But I'm quite content. I'm not over the moon ecstatic. I don't think we've got a fantastic manager here, but I think we've got someone who can possibly move us on a little bit. I'm encouraged that he's got a relationship with Kieran Scott. I think that's imperative, because if you don't, then you're going to find yourself out the door, because I think there's only one guy that rules the roost down at the club, and I think Kieran Scott is leading the charge really in terms of the setup, and I think the manager that comes in does have to be able to work with him thoroughly and adhere to how he wants to run things, which is fine, providing he can back it up with some quality signings. Personally, I don't think we've seen enough quality signings to kick us on. We've seen some very good ones, but we've also seen some extremely bad ones. A lot of development players, which they come and go. And we must have had 10 project players, and they've not played 20 games between them, which is a worry. So there's an influx of players, but none of them are very good. So hopefully we can change that and start by bringing in some quality defenders. I'll say it time and time again, we do bring in some good attacking players. Lath, Rodgers, Azaz, good players, quality players, but I'd love to see some defenders in the team who are on parity with them players.
Cuts, I'll come to you. Just thought come to me there. Rob Edwards did mention in his press conference as well about the academy side of it, and it's going to be important to him. And he said I could see all the faces on the walls of the training ground when I was walking through. All the players that have come through the academy went on to have international careers and top footballing careers in the Premier League, etc. That hasn't been happening for a while at Middlesbrough, really. The conveyor belt has certainly slowed down. That must be one of the top priorities under Rob Edwards. If he's here, he's got to start pushing. I know they've got to be good enough, don't get us wrong, but he's got to start giving some young players a chance at this football club, because we can't just rely on Steve Gibson's checkbook in the Championship. We need young players to come through.
Yeah, I agree, but ultimately, it's are the players good enough? We mentioned a few times last year that we thought we would have saw a little bit more of Law McCabe, who the season before played against the last game against Watford, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who in that game, I know it was the last game of the season, but I thought he did really well. For me, he looked style-wise very similar to Hayden Hackney. Now, I was a bit surprised that he didn't get a little bit more game time last year. But for me, another mistake we made last year, when McGree was fit and he was on the bench, we could have played him in a centre midfield role. We've seen he's got the engine. It's about getting these players fit. You've mentioned quality players that we've got, and nobody's really mentioned Riley McGee. Now, for me, if we can get him fully going and fully fit, he could have a massive season for this football club at centre midfield. For me, like you mentioned, the young players. It's about if they're good enough. I don't know if they are good enough or not, but we won't see that until they get a chance.
Yeah, well, pre-season is going to be the time to do it, when you're playing roll-on, roll-off subs and everybody gets game time. If there's anybody that's rated by the coaches behind the scenes, that's been held back by Michael Carrick and Michael Carrick's coaching side, they'll probably get pushed to the front this pre-season to see if they're good enough in Rob Edwards' eyes. Now, I've heard rumours that there is one or two that might just get pushed forward, so it'll be interesting to see who gets added to the Middlesbrough first team squad for pre-season. We've got another question from Ben Evans. He says, do you reckon Vivash was always coming to Middlesbrough and Carrick didn't want his coaching team changing? Which players will benefit and who will fade away? I think we will sell Azaz if we get an offer. He doesn't fit the way that Rob Edwards wants to play, and there's a Coburn redemption incoming. So he's asking maybe, you know, we want to change Michael Carrick's coaching team. That's the reason he left. I don't think Vivash and Michael Carrick's coaching team are connected. I think I can answer that question confidently. That was a Rob Edwards choice, Vivash. I do think if Michael Carrick was going to stay, however, there were going to be changes to his coaching staff. Maybe his brother was going to be moved on. Maybe Woodgate was going to get moved on. And Michael Carrick did stay loyal to his coaching staff, which is understandable, with one of them being his brother. But the other points of it, lads, which players do you think will benefit from Rob Edwards coming in, and who do you think will fade away? It doesn't fit the way Rob Edwards wants to play. I can think of one straight away, which we mentioned a little bit earlier, which I've got to worry over, which is Morgan Whittaker.
Yeah, I mean, go on, Graham, sorry.
Well, I just find it difficult to see where he's going to fit in. If you're going to play, I'm pretty adamant he will play wing backs, and he'll push his wing backs high up the field. So the only way you could play Whittaker is to tuck him in and then get your wing back bombing on beyond him and trying to link up that way. But he's just too weak for me, too physically weak to play sort of a central role. I just don't see him fitting into a system, which is quite alarming, really, because we've spent a hell of a lot of money on him. But that's why Rob Edwards has paid the big bucks. He's got to find a solution. He's got to find a formula. There's a case for Coburn up front, because if you look at his model at Luton, again, he did play with the wing backs, and like he says, he likes to ping crosses in and shots. So he'll be getting a lot of crosses into the box, and there's no use crossing the ball if you've got two players who are 5'0". So I think he might play a combination of a big man and a little man, which would be quite exciting for me. Take me back to sort of mid-90s with Wilkinson and Hendry. So something like that would be quite refreshing and different. And I would like to see us pinging in balls from the wings, as opposed to playing with inverted wingers, which doesn't really get you anywhere. So I think Tommy Conway will benefit from Rob Edwards coming, and I think he'll also benefit from Viviash coming as well. I think he'll find ways and means of getting more out of him.
I find it quite interesting that we're sat here talking about 3-5-2 now. I don't know enough about when he was at Watford and when he was at Luton, but what he inherited at them football clubs. Now, I'm sure that this club has said that they want to play a certain style of football, and even when managers leave, we've got the players that will play a set system. Now, even myself earlier mentioned about 3-5-2. I'll be very surprised if we do go into the season on 3-5-2. We just spent £6 million on a player that plays wide. I'll be surprised. It might be what he inherited at Watford. I don't know if he played it at Watford or Luton, but it might have been what he inherited at them football clubs. Now, you can still have passion and implement everything that he says he wants to implement by playing 4 at the back. And with the players we've got, like say, we're not just going to write Whittaker off after 6 months. Surely they've had them discussions when they've been bringing him in. Like I say, they have talked in the past. Kieran's mentioned that we're going to have a certain style of football and a certain formation, so that if managers do go, it's not ripping everything up and starting again. Personally, you can clip this if you want. I think we'll start the season with 4 at the back.
He did play at Luton as well, 3-4-3, which is slightly different formation. So he does tweak it around a little bit. As for Whittaker, I know we've spent, when we pay everything up front for appearances and all that, it could be nearly £6 million we've paid for him. However, if he doesn't fit Rob Edwards' system, and Rob Edwards doesn't rate him as a player, Rob Edwards, unfortunately, is going to move him on, whether that be in the summer or whether that be in January. We might have to take a cut on him. We might have to take, sell him on the cheap. But if he's not going to fit the system, it might be a hit Middlesbrough have got to take. I would imagine they'll give him the pre-season to see if he can fit into a system or a style. I mean, the problem with Whittaker I've got is, which in his early performances, he doesn't like to track back. He doesn't like to work. A little bit like Azaz. He's the same. He just floats around. He doesn't get tackles. Azaz, he doesn't. He's great at assists. He's great at goals. But Azaz's overall game in terms of tracking back and tackling and doing the hard yards, he needs to improve that side of his game. So I would think Rob Edwards with Azaz is looking at him thinking, I can probably mould you into the best player in the league if you listen to us and you work hard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if you don't, I think Azaz, along with Morgan Whittaker, will have a real problem adapting to Rob Edwards' style of play.
I think he'll form a midfield to protect Azaz and allow him to flourish and play as a luxury player. Because you look at his stats, you can't ignore them stats. If we lost Azaz, he'd be pretty much irreplaceable for me, I think. Certainly this season coming. Can't lose him because you're starting all over again. And you're trying to find 12 assists and 11 goals. And
you need to find players to play alongside Azaz to get the best out of Azaz.
Yeah,
you need water carriers that are going to be alongside him that
Yeah.
put the hard yards and win the tackles and give him the ball in the last in the final third. And if Rob Edwards, what he's saying is, we want to play higher up the pitch and play in their half and be at it, charging down their back threes and back fours in winning possession high up the pitch away from our goal. You never know, that might just suit Azaz if people are winning the ball higher up the pitch and giving him the ball higher up the pitch. Because one criticism of Azaz last season was in the big games, he went missing, he didn't produce. And that was because he was generally sitting deep because other teams were being allowed to come onto Middlesbrough and press onto Middlesbrough, like say your Leeds and your Sheffield United would press Middlesbrough back. And Finn Azaz was then in his own half doing absolutely nothing. If Middlesbrough are higher up the pitch at other teams, Finn Azaz is going to be more involved. That's just my thinking, logically thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I just think we've got to utilise him as best we can. Will we link with Doughty, the left wing back that played at Luton?
I don't know if that's just because of the Rob Edwards and putting two and two together, but
possibly
he is a good player. He does fit that system, so it would make sense. But then again, it's how much does he cost and all the rest of it. But Luton being in League One and building a new stadium, I'd imagine the deal could be done for him if Rob Edwards wants him.
And if he wants to play that style, because obviously he'd be a left hand side, and then we were linked with a right wing back as well, weren't we?
Lad from Villa.
Yes,
Lad from Villa.
So I mean, if they are concrete links, then that suggests to me that he will play with wing backs and he'll do something different. But like you mentioned, John, he could completely outfox everybody and go with the same system that's ingrained throughout the club, which we played, for 3 seasons under Michael Carrick. But I just think it's possibly now an opportunity to try and just switch it around a bit. The times we did play a 3 at the back with Carrick, we did all right. We didn't lose games, and we actually won a few. Won at Leicester, we beat Chelsea. So, we played Villa, didn't we? We got beat last minute with that fluky goal. We played a 3 in that game, and we performed ever so well. So it is an option. It probably suits the personnel we've got better than probably a 4. But I mean, like I said all the time, we've got to change that back 3, 4, 5, whatever, and start again.
We've got a decent pre-season to look forward to as well, guys. Decent pre-season. Bradford City on the 23rd of July. Rangers on the 26th, which I've got tickets for. Cannot wait. 8,000 Boro going up to Glasgow. What can go wrong? And we've got Deportivo La Coruña at the Riverside on the 2nd of August. So good games for Rob Edwards to get his teeth into. I'm sure we'll take plenty fans to Bradford. There'll be a good turnout at the Riverside for Deportivo. So I think they're good fixtures for Rob Edwards to start as Middlesbrough manager, and the fans to see his style of play, how he wants to play, and how he's going to integrate the players we've got with the new signings. So I'm quite excited for those games.
Yeah,
I think it's good fixtures.
Yeah, I think England, any England-Scotland fixture is going to be. It's not going to be particularly friendly, is it? And especially with 8,000 going up there. The game I can't make, and I'm absolutely a bit gutted about it, to be honest, because it would have been a great day of that. But yeah, there'll be certainly be some tackles flying in that day, I would imagine.
I'll have a couple of tenants for you, John, just on your behalf when I'm up there.
Thanks very much.
Right, guys, listen, that's it for now. We'll be back before the start of the season. We'll come back and do a podcast looking at the pre-season and new signings before the season starts, and the new fixture list, which is due out as well. We'll do all that. We'll have another summer podcast before the start of the season. But thanks for jumping on again. We had to do one with a new manager being announced, so thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
I'm just glad we've got it sorted. We had four weeks of nothing from the club at all. So maybe they're starting to learn the lessons now.
It was a great tweet to put out, though, wasn't it? Finally found me login details. That was
That's
great.
right, yeah. Still got a sense of humour.
Yeah.
Right, I'm off to get on the bus with Rob Edwards Reds. So we shall see you again over the summer. Remember, don't say typical Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll be back again soon. Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.